know-it-all.
What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, and in today's video, we have to talk about Game 2 of the NBA Finals. I was so excited for this game after what we got in Game 1. Incredible comeback for the Boston Celtics and that fourth quarter surges. I left that game trying to figure out what the next game in Game 2 would look like, because the Warriors came out and really won that game for the first 41 to 42 minutes. There was a lot of tough shots that the Boston Celtics made in that comeback and that resurgence in the fourth quarter that I don't want to discredit them with, but I definitely look at those shots as questionable shots as far as how consistent they would be able to make those shots in the 7-game series against the Golden State Warriors. I mean, Al Horford coming out 6 of 8, which was an NBA Finals record for a debut as far as made three-point shots. You had Derek White not only making shots, but the level of contested shots he made in that fourth quarter was crazy. I mean, the first 7 threes they took of the fourth quarter, they made. They outscored the Warriors like 40-14, 40-16 in the fourth quarter. And like I said, credit goes to them for making the big shots and taking the big shots, but how sustainable would that be over the course of a 7-game series was what my mind was trying to figure out. And in Game 2, I was extremely excited to see how the Warriors would respond with this championship DNA, the veteran leadership that they have, because I felt like that Game 1 loss could have been extremely deflating and also could be a confidence and morale booster for the Celtics, who I felt like were just happy to be there. Al Horford being a 36-year-old vet who had the most playoff wins without a finals appearance, super happy and emotional in the Eastern Conference win in Miami. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and you saw Jaylen Brown when he played for Cal speaking about wanting to be in that moment. From my perspective, I felt like the Boston Celtics coming into it was happy to just be in the finals and get over that hump, you know, for the first time versus the Warriors, who had been through this route 6 of 8 over the last 8 years. I felt that they could have taken advantage of the happy to be here moment, but that Game 1 win gave Boston not only the happy to be here, but also the belief that we can compete with this team who's on a dynasty run. Not only can we compete with them, but we can win, and we can win in their building, which no other team in the entire playoffs had been able to do up to that point. So because of all those things, I came into Game 2. I came in with my notepad. I was ready to see the adjustments that both sides made, because we know this is going to be a chess match even further on throughout the series. And out of the gate, one of the first things I saw was the level of intensity on the defensive end that the Warriors came out with, just as far as getting up into guys, trying to be more physical and aggressive. I saw Draymond Green in the first possession. He was guarding Al Horford. Then second possession, he was on Jaylen Brown. He was up into Jaylen Brown. They got a lot of pressure on the basketball instead of being more relaxed and laxed up. And it was a dogfight from the beginning. Both teams going back and forth how you would expect. Not the same opening quarter from Steph Curry or anything like that, but definitely just the intensity level of guarding on the ball and the adjustment of moving Draymond off of Al Horford to have him more active and up into guys. And on the first possession, if I'm not mistaken, he tied Al Horford up for a jump ball because he got right into him and crowded him up. Out of the gate, a couple of notes that I took in the first quarter as far as the Celtics was the turnovers. They were real loose with the basketball, 7 turnovers in the first quarter. That was something that impacted them the entire way through. The Golden State Warriors won the turnover battle. They had 12, Boston had 18, and not only did they have 18 turnovers, when you look at the points off turnovers between both teams, Boston only scored 15 points off of the 12 turnovers that the Warriors had. And with the 18 turnovers that Boston had, the Warriors scored 33 points. So they doubled the points off of turnovers for the Golden State Warriors, which I think is also going to be a big thing to watch, because both of these teams can get very loose with the basketball. I mean, the Warriors are just as bad as anybody as far as being loose and very nonchalant, and Steph Curry can make countless just head-scratching turnovers. Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, Draymond Green here and there can be loose with the basketball. And I think that in this particular game, the Celtics were the ones that were a little bit more loose, and the Warriors are able to take advantage and get out and run. That was one of the things that frustrated me early on in the game, especially when I saw Jordan Poole come in, and I felt like they had a very good lineup in there that could get up and down. I don't like the fact that sometimes in certain stretches, the Warriors walk the basketball up. Like I saw a possession where Jordan Poole walked the basketball up. And I'm not talking about off a make. I'm talking about off a miss, a defensive stance, and you want to push the ball and get in transition and play with pace. I feel like that's where the Warriors are at their best. And also, that's when the Celtics aren't at their best defensively. The Celtics are a very, very good defense. This is an all-time great defense we're watching, and it's because they're super versatile, and matchups really don't get them out of sort, to speak. But any defense is going to be better when it gets a chance to set up. So off of a miss, getting into transition and getting guys going to the same guy, no one knows how to stop the ball. That's a lot of the stuff that we saw in game 1. So in this game, off of a miss, I'm watching Jordan Poole just walk the ball up. Off a miss, I'm watching Andrew Wiggins just walk the ball up. It was extremely frustrating to me because I wanted to see them build on that pace and not let the Boston Celtics set up their all-time great defense. And I felt like the only guy or one of the guys that really pushed the pace was Steph Curry. And I was happy to see Steph Curry do that. Obviously, Draymond here and there is going to push the pace, but I love when they got the ball up. Steph Curry was pushing himself. He throwing the ball ahead. And I felt like they were able to capitalize for the points off turnovers because they played with that pace. And that's going to get Klay Thompson the open corner 3 looks. He was struggling to find rhythm, and that's because a lot of his shots had to come in the half court where it was just kind of head scratching like a contested 2 early in the shot clock. Klay, are you serious? But that's because he's pressing to find a rhythm and see one go down to get his confidence going. But if you play with more pace, the game opens up and you got so many guys that are going to get attention to Steph Curry. And then you have an open 3 for Klay. You have an open 3 for Wiggins. You get an open layup for Kevon Looney and all the things that we saw once they started to play with pace. So that was one of the notes that I made for the Warriors. Another thing as far as that first quarter for me, the Celtics continued to attack Steph and Poole. But the one thing I think the Warriors are okay with is the Boston Celtics trying to spend a lot of time attacking, because it ruins the flow of your offense. It allows more guys to stand still, and the Warriors do a very good job, especially in game 2, of making sure that they're guarding up, but there's help there for Jordan Poole when he's on Tatum. And I saw one play where Tatum had him with his back against around the elbow, and he faced up and shot the jumper. He missed and smiled because I know he knows those shots are going to fall, and those shots did end up falling throughout the course of the game. Jason Tatum with 13 points in the first quarter. That was more points that he scored in all of the first game. So that was really, really good. But yeah, a lot of unforced turnovers on both sides. Another thing that stood out to me that I have written down in my notes from the first quarter was Jaylen Brown had 2 fouls. Jason Tatum had 2 fouls. Grant Williams had 2 fouls, all in the first quarter. So them being a little bit over-aggressive and not being the smartest fouls. The tangled up situation with Jason Tatum and Draymond Green, I feel like Boston has to be a lot more disciplined in those type of situations, because you know the character and the antics that come with Draymond Green. He's going to try to do any and everything. Why? I don't know at this point. Sometimes I feel like it's not worth it. Because we saw a situation where he got into a technical situation, and then later on in the game, he was in another situation that could have potentially been a double tech with him and Jaylen Brown, and he could have not been in for the rest of that game and got ejected. I just don't like and understand what's the value of putting yourself in that situation. But on Boston's side, they have to know not to feed into that. And when him and Jason Tatum got into that tangled up thing, he didn't flop on the inbound pass, because now he knows the refs are watching those two. Easy ticky-tack foul on Jason Tatum. Then he picked up a real foul. Now you have 2 in the first quarter, and it's putting your coach and your team in a situation where they have to figure out, do they play you? Do they sit you? And now you have to not play aggressive because you don't want to pick up that third. They have to be more aware of that, because that's just what Draymond Green does. And it's just not, it's not worth it. Don't even pay attention to him. I really am so sick of Draymond Green doing those type of things, because we've seen it literally lose the Warriors a championship. We could talk about the Cavs all we want and how magical that was, but a lot of people do believe, and it is a good point, that if Draymond wasn't suspended for that one game, the Warriors probably win that series. So for that to have happened in history, why Draymond continues to do that, head scratching to me. I hope to not see that no more. But moving on to the second quarter, In my notes, Benelitsa got early minutes. That was something me and my pops talked about after game 1 when we were on the phone, how much we would have liked to see Benelitsa play early in the game just to provide a different look for the Warriors from an offensive standpoint. We saw different stretches where there was Iguodala and Draymond Green out there. We know from an offensive standpoint and a defensive standpoint for Boston, those are two guys that you don't have to really pay too much attention to on the perimeter. Same thing with Kevon Looney and Draymond being in the game. Those are two non-perimeter threats, which helps the Boston defense in that already historic defense that they have. So putting a guy like Benelitsa out there who has size and shooting ability to stretch the floor, and he's a really good offensive basketball player from a cutting, passing, posting standpoint, it just gives you more of a fluent offense against that defense. And this lineup of Poole, Clay, Wiggins, Porter, and Benelitsa started the second quarter. I was a little disappointed in seeing Otto Porter come out quickly after that for Draymond, because I wanted to see Jordan Poole be in a lineup with all of that spacing and all of the guys that would draw perimeter attention. You have to guard Clay out there. You have to guard Wiggins and respect his shot. Otto Porter's been shooting the ball fantastically in his finals run, and Benelitsa is an outside threat. So now you give Poole a lot more room to work with. Though defensively, the only guy you really have out there is Wiggins, because Benelitsa is a guy that they were trying to attack. Poole is trying to get attacked. Clay is respected, but he's not what he used to be as of right now. And, you know, Porter has the length and the size, but again, that's probably one of their not so best defensive lineups. But I did like that. I did like to see Benelitsa out there. I think he gave them very productive minutes, and I hope that they continue that instead of giving these guys lineups where two guys aren't as respectable from the perimeter, because I feel like that just clogs everything up. Clay, I had Clay bad. I just felt like Clay was pressing, and in the second quarter, it was more evident than any other quarter. A lot of just weird shots, and Clay has the green light for the Warriors. I understand that, but it's just some shots that I feel like he has to understand are going to be there. They're always going to be there. The mid-range, rushed in transition or early in the shot clock shots are going to be there, and we got to see as the game progressed for Clay, when he was himself, and when I mean himself, coming off the pin downs, coming off the screens, or even a flick, coming off screening and playing off the basketball with a mind to shoot and score and be aggressive, and with a pace, it made baskets for him. That's when he started to make baskets. I think Mark Jackson even highlighted, like, Clay was coming off 100 miles per hour, just out of rhythm, out of sync, because he was pressing, and he started to press a little bit too much, where it became, you know, something that was hindering a team versus helping the team. And once he started to calm down and he saw a couple go in and he threw his hands in the air, that was very good sight to see. Yeah, but the Warriors going to 10-0 run when they sat Clay. They sat Clay eventually with about 7 minutes left in the second quarter. They went on a 10-0 run after that. At this point, the Celtics were 10 of 19 from three, still living and staying alive by the three ball. Andrew Wiggins, offensive rebounds, I got right here. He had a possession where he got about 2 or 3 offensive rebounds in one possession. He's been the leading offensive rebounding guy for the playoffs, him and Kevon Looney. I think he probably has the lead by now. That's something that they're going to have to continue to talk up from him, because he's doing a very good job for getting the Warriors those extra possessions in this series. And that's going to be something that's vital. And I think from an offensive rebounding standpoint, it wasn't anything crazy. Yeah, both teams had 6 offensive rebounds, but I think Wiggins probably had at least half of that for the Golden State Warriors. So that was another good sight to see. Tatum 21 at the half. That made me feel like, okay. This is Tatum coming out party. He's about to start getting going. But the one thing that we'll get to for the second half of the game, and I see the Warriors had 5 turnovers in that quarter. 24 points in the paint in the first half for the Warriors, only 12 for the Celtics, because again, the Celtics were living from 3 at 10 of 19. Down the stretch though, key things and key points in this overall game that made it different, because this was a blowout win for the Warriors, and they really took away in the third quarter when Steph Curry played at the finals MVP level. And I think hands down, 2 games into the series, Steph Curry has been on a different planet than anybody else. Jason Tatum with the 13 assists in the first game, Al Horford playing the way he played. Listen, Steph Curry is playing head and shoulders above anybody else in this series through 2 games. But the lack of help from everybody else in the Celtics is really down the stretch killed them. I feel like Tatum came out very aggressive. Like I said, he had more points in the first quarter of game 2 than he did in all of game 1. But Al Horford with 2 points. Marcus Smart missed every 3 that he took. Derek White had 12 points off 13 shots. Just wasn't the same thing. Al Horford 0 threes. Didn't even attempt one. I don't even think he attempted a shot in the first quarter or first quarter and a half. Derek White, Marcus Smart, Al Horford all combined for 2 of 7 from 3 after what they did in game 1. And that's why I said if I was the Warriors, I wouldn't panic, because you have to put these guys in a position to have to shoot the ball at the same level that they did. And though they made shots, and you have to tip your hats off to them for making the shots, they just didn't come with it this time. And it was very interesting because, again, Tatum was more aggressive and he made the shots, and we knew he wasn't going to have the game he had in game 1. But on the Warriors side, you have to tell yourself that Horford, Smart, and White probably weren't going to have the game that they had. So going down the stretch for the rest of the series, I'm really interested to see in these next 2 games, what is the reality that we're going to get? Is the reality that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown is really going to have to try to beat the Warriors from an offensive standpoint by themselves? Or is the reality that White, Smart, and Horford are going to be more vital offensively? I'm still trying to figure that out. And once we understand that, or how effective they can be as supporting cast players down the stretch, that will probably tell us the series. From a statistical standpoint, again, the turnovers really bit the Celtics up. 18 turnovers, 33 points off turnovers for the Warriors. 15 steals for the Golden State Warriors. 15 to the Celtics 5 steals, but the Celtics did have those 7 blocks. A lot of them came from Jordan Poole trying to do the same foot, same hand layup. And Robert Williams, Daniel Tice, even Derek White got a piece of those. He's got to start settling for the mid-range if he's not going to be able to convert at the rim against that size and length. Rebounds are pretty even. 43 rebounds to 42. Celtics win that battle. They shot identical from the 3-point line. 40% for both teams off 15 of 37 shooting. Very, very weird and strange that they shot the same amount of threes and had the same amount of makes. And then just from an offensive standpoint together, the Celtics made 30 of their 80 shots at 37% clip. The Warriors shot 39 of 86 for a 45% clip. And that's right there, the Golden State Warrior offense. I loved also Gary Payton II getting minutes. I love what he does as far as on-ball pressure and on-ball defense, making these guys feel more suffocated. I love those minutes from him, and that was the difference for me. I feel like after game 1, we kind of got the sentiment that the Warriors didn't feel like they did enough aggressively on the defensive side of the basketball, and in game 2, they really stepped it up. Draymond got into guys. Gary Payton II got into guys. Wiggins is going to be Wiggins on the defensive end, and I really do think that Steph Curry had a very good defensive game. You know, despite what his reputation as a defender is, and despite that a lot of teams try to attack him, I thought he had a very phenomenal defensive game, reading rotations, but being active in the passing lanes, got a few good steals off guessing and anticipating where Tatum was going to go with the basketball and rotating there to cut off some of the passes he was trying to make. I felt like he was good on the rebounding glass, chasing after the ball, and like I said, pushing the pace really opened up the game. I love the fact that Gary Payton II was able to hit a corner 3. Those are the shots that the role players are going to have to hit, because you know, guys aren't really going to pay him much attention. But if he can make some shots early, become respectable, it continues to keep things opened up while he's making an impact defensively. And game 3, like I said, the highlights for me and what I'm anticipating in game 3 is what type of performance we get from Al Horford, Derek White, Marcus Smart, and the others. And if we can be able to get them having impactful games from an offensive standpoint like we did in game 1, while Jason Tatum still scores the basketball at a high level, or just Jason Tatum have to become a passer and figure out how to be effective as a passer and score while these guys help him, and then he also scores down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Those are my main things. I want to see more minutes with Bjelica to open up the game a little bit more instead of those 2 non-shooting threats for the Warriors. I want to see them play with the same intensity, and I want to see Jaylen Brown have a consistent game. I feel like in game 1, the first half was kind of quiet. Then he took off in that fourth quarter, sparked them down the stretch, the second half, but sparked them specifically in the fourth quarter. This game, he came out of the gate on point, and then he kind of fizzled out with like a few points in the second half. I want to see him consistently be present on the offensive side of the basketball throughout the entire game. And I think we're going to have a very good series the rest of the way. This has been a dogfight. Obviously, don't want it to be any more blowouts like it was in Game 2. Would prefer not to see Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and all of the Celtics starters sitting on a bench with 10 minutes left to go in a Game 2 of the NBA Finals. But they, pulled their starters with 10 minutes left. That wasn't ideal. But I am interested to see what's going to be the consistent factor and what identity are we going to see from the offensive side of the basketball for the Celtics going down the stretch. And the Warriors, man, this is it. This is it. Jordan Poole stepping up, 17 points, 5 of 9 from 3. They really needed that. The more he can be effective offensively, the more it kind of neutralizes his defensive impact. And the same thing with Derek White. As far as offensively, him not being effective there is going to put the Celtics in a bit of a pickle on how to play him. So I got Warriors in 6 still. Never panicked after that Game 1 loss. Definitely heartbreaking and a gut punch. But the Warriors showed me in Game 2 why I picked them in 6. The consistency on the defensive end, the fact that offense very rarely is going to go on a 17-0 run where they can't score. And you have so many different options. You have Ben Elitza. You have Gary Payton II. You have I almost called him Gary Porter. You have Otto Porter. You have Jordan Poole. You have Looney, Draymond. It's so many different looks the Warriors have. When on the flip side, I think the Celtics have different looks, but not as many options as the Warriors. And I'm also looking at the health of Robert Williams. He continues to look hobbled throughout the course of these games. And in every series, he's had to miss some type of game. And I think because of the shot blocking and the rim protection he provides, it's not going to be ideal for him to miss time. So hopefully he can get healthy with these days between games. But the Warriors quickly showed the rest of the world why a lot of us had them in 6. This is NBA Weekly. I am Pee Wee the Plug. I cannot wait to see you guys for Game 3. Hopefully it's another dogfight like Game 1 and we get something good. As always, it's a pleasure, and I'll see you guys soon. I'm out. Peace.
Mr. Know-It-All.